Are you afraid to scale up your business because you think it just means working twice as hard? I get it. We've heard that from so many women over the last 9 years at Million Dollar Women. I'd love to go big, Julia. I'd love to make more money, but I'm already working so hard. I don't want to work twice as hard. Well, happily, that's not the only way to get there. If you're thinking about scaling, but the idea just makes you tired because you're already working weekends and nights and you feel like, well, that's just going to make my life unbearable, I have good news for you. We've helped women over the last 9 years to reach 1 million, 2 million, and more in revenues, not by working twice as hard. In fact, many of them are working less hard now than they did when they were making 200,000 or 300,000 a year. If you don't adopt one of these strategies, then you might get stuck on that entrepreneur's hamster wheel you've heard me talk about, where you're just doing the same things over and over again, maybe growing incrementally, but not taking those big leaps forward. Plus, things are changing so fast right now with AI taking over businesses, so many changes in the economy. We have to all keep up with our industries and all these rapid changes. So now is a great time to be thinking about how can I approach my business differently? What are things I'm not doing that could make all the difference? And I'm hoping that one of these 3 things I'm going to share today might give you an idea of what you could do to start scaling up faster. The other reason I want you to think about these things is when we get on calls with women from across the country and sometimes around the world at Million Dollar Women, women often say, well, the reason I haven't grown my business more is that I'm not good at marketing, or I need to update my website, or it's because I live in Nebraska and it's not a big hub. They have all these reasons that their businesses haven't scaled. But what I rarely hear them say is the main reason that their business hasn't scaled, which is something that we've seen over the last 9 years. And it comes down to one simple word: strategy. Usually it's because they don't have the right strategy. You can be based in some podunk town in the middle of nowhere and still build a multi-million-dollar business. We've had women who have built 7- and 8-figure businesses without very much going for them. Some of them didn't have a college degree, didn't have any family money they could borrow to get started. So I want you to really think about your strategy. And that's really what these 3 things I'm going to teach you today fall under. So the first thing we've seen work really well, especially with services businesses, is just going after a bigger, different client. Sometimes we get stuck, again, on that entrepreneur's hamster wheel of just serving the same kind of client over and over again. And that keeps our business small. Because if your clients are only paying you, let's say $5,000 each, and then you have to go find a new client, well, getting to 200,000 in revenues could be really challenging. Whereas if you upgrade and start serving a $10,000 client, you only need to have as many clients to get to 200,000 in revenues. Now, you can't just snap your fingers and make that happen. I remember a PR firm we helped. Jenna was the owner of the PR firm, and I'm just going to use all first names today. She had a PR firm where she was charging about $4,000 a month for her clients, but she wanted to be charging more like $7,500 or $10,000 a month. So we helped her figure out how to change her offering and change who she was networking with so she could get those bigger clients. She wound up moving into the VC-backed startup world because once a company gets VC funding, they're under all kinds of pressure to grow quickly, and they often hire a PR firm. That worked for her, and she's been able to build a 7-figure PR business. Another great example of going after a bigger client is a marketing firm. So Natalie was closing deals that were like 10,000, 15,000, but she wanted to be getting deals that were more like 35 and 40,000. Once she changed her marketing materials, started networking with different business owners where she lived, she started attracting a different kind of client. And in fact, she started saying no to those smaller $10,000 clients to make room for the bigger clients. So it can be a little scary at first when you're turning away business of the smaller clients while you're laying the foundation to get those bigger clients. And this is something we help them both figure out. It can sometimes be hard to figure out what to change in your own business because you're so inside it, right? You're on that hamster wheel just running every day. And this is where a coach or a mentor can really come in handy. The second thing you can do, so the first thing is go after that bigger client. The second thing you could do is try a whole different market. We had a woman in our accelerator class who just graduated, Hyacinth, And she was mainly serving a B2C customer. She has a laundry business where she comes and picks up the laundry and has it done and brings it right back to your door. And she was doing well, making six figures, but most of her clients were individuals. With a little help shifting her strategy and thinking about bigger clients she could go after, she decided to pursue some B2B clients. And the next thing you know, she got a $100,000 deal with a local hospital. Amazing. And now she can go after more of those types of deals. Plus, she's expanding up and down the East Coast. Super excited for her. So could you start serving a B2B client, not just a B2C client, if that's what you've been doing? And maybe if you're doing B2B, you could come up with some offering for B2C. So that's the second scaling strategy that we've seen work without working twice as hard. The third strategy is to look at everything you're doing in your company and figure out, is there a piece of what I do that could become passive revenue? Maybe you're not going to transform the entire business into a passive revenue generating business. But I remember one of my coaching clients, Juanita, has a vision care center where she serves adults and kids in Connecticut, and they come in with their vision problems and she and her team help them. 7-figure business, great business, but all very in person. So when I worked with her for 6 months as a coach, we helped her figure out a way to create a passive revenue source. For her, it looked like we said, okay, well, what are people paying you to do over and over and over again where you don't really need to be in person? And we figured out it was the parents bringing in their kids who had reading problems. She decided to create a digital program that the kids could do at home before even needing to come in. It was way less expensive for the parents. They could do it with their kids at home. And this created an awesome passive revenue source for her that generated $200,000 in revenues over the first few months after she launched it. She's now working on all kinds of national partnerships around that to turn that into an even bigger piece of her revenue pie while she still meets with clients in person. So what's a piece of your business that could be passive revenue? I'll just share one more story. Shelly, who has a company that's pole fitness, teaching women how to do pole dancing while staying fit, based down in Florida, she came to us saying, I'm getting tired of going into the studio every day. Isn't there some way to turn this into more of a passive revenue business? Well, she decided to create an app. And the app then came with a pole that she sent to women's homes so that they could get the fitness classes on the app and do the dances on the pole at home. Well, her timing was perfect. This all went live right before the pandemic and lockdown. And suddenly she was flooded with requests. So now the app is incredibly popular. It's had hundreds of thousands of downloads, and she's at over 2 million in revenues. The prior business, the Pole Fitness Studio, which she still has up and running, had never made more than 90,000 a year. So that was a huge jump for her, and it was working less hard, not harder. So if you've been having that thought of, I do want to scale, but I just don't want to make my life any harder than it is. I know lifestyle is very important to people, especially if you have kids. I have 2 boys. I want to spend as much time with them as possible. And even if you don't have kids, you just want to enjoy your life. I always say to my clients, the business has got to work for you, not you for the business. If you feel like you're working for your business, then you might as well go get a job. It has better benefits. So one thing a lot of women come to me for is, how do I make this business work for me? If any of this resonates and you want some help with all this, reach out so we can help you figure out what the more scalable part of your business is. Just go to millionwomen.com. You can read about our group programs or set up a call to talk to us about one-on-one coaching. So I hope you'll try out one of those 3 things that I just mentioned. Little recap. It was, how can you go after a bigger client and charge higher dollars? How can you maybe shift from B2B to B2C or B2C to B2B, go after a whole other market? And the third thing was, can you take a piece of your business and turn it into a passive revenue stream so that you can have money coming in while you're sleeping? Who doesn't want that? Thanks for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next time. And in the meantime, stay brave, go big, and don't get stuck in that work twice as hard thinking. You don't have to work twice as hard to scale up. I'll see you next time. Bye.